Hi, my name is Abeiku, for those who don't know me. I'm the current intern at CNC Labs, and I'm working on the LaserBeam team. And today I want to show you a new product that we just launched called the Vortex Riser Mount. The purpose of this mount, it's gonna attach to the standard LaserBeam mount that comes with your standard LaserBeam package. And the purpose of it is to give you an increase in your Z-axis height, so it makes it easier to focus your laser for different applications. The biggest one that comes to mind, obviously in the name, is with pairing with the Vortex rotary axis. Today, we're just gonna be showing you how to assemble this and the different ways you can mount it to your Longmill. Your standard LaserBeam mount, it's gonna come pre-attached to your LaserBeam diode. You can see there's a bunch of M3 screws. So we're gonna focus on these 4 screws over here. First thing we wanna do is remove these screws. So you're gonna use your Allen key, take your time, just put enough force to get them out. As you can see, just with a little demo, this is how it's gonna mount. Now, important part about this step, and you'll see it later, depending on how you want to mount your laser, you can flip this bracket, right? So you could put it in this orientation, or you could put it in this orientation. It's gonna depend on your needs and what you wanna do, but there's no like right or wrong way to do it. Just for the purposes and sake of this video, I'm just gonna mount it this way. And then now we're gonna take the bolts we just removed and reinsert them. Gonna hand tighten each one first, and then we'll use our Allen key to tighten it down fully. That basically completes the assembly portion. This is what it will look like. So now your LaserBeam Vortex Riser Mount, no, it's a long name, is fully attached, and you're ready to mount it. Getting into mounting, there's a few different ways we could do this. There's different orientations you could mount if you have your mounting holes on the side. This specific setup has your mounting holes on the front. Not much changes, but it's just nice to see it visually. Let's start with what I like to call orientation 1. You take your 2 holes over here, and basically you want to line it up with the mounting holes on your router mount, and you'll find that this big hole over here will just slide on to your M5 router mount bolt. So you want to line up the holes. Know if you for some reason already have something mounted in here or M5s in here, obviously remove those first. Put it in, line up the holes, take your M5s and just hand tighten them in. It can be a bit finicky sometimes, but just work through it. As I am bolting it in, you could already see the benefit. Our laser would be hanging like way down here. But with the addition of this bracket, the Vortex Riser Mount, we have so much more room for lens focusing. When we attach our lens, we have all this space, and that's very helpful, again, for different applications, such as when you're trying to do a laser engraving or cutting job with the Vortex rotary axis. If you own one, you have so much more room to focus the lens, because as you know, with the rotary axis, there's some elevation here. You're not dealing with it at bed level. Okay, so we now want to take our Allen key. These are M5s, so use the appropriate one, and we want to just tighten it down fully. These don't strip as easily. They're very hard to strip. You need to be very strong, so don't worry too much, like with the M3s, about being super delicate. Voila, that's orientation 1 mounted. Doesn't get much more complicated than this. But yeah, I just want to make a note before I go into the other ways you can mount it. As you saw in the assembly portion, when I was saying you could flip this bracket, if you did flip the bracket, the long end would be facing this way. So I'm going to show you guys that after, but it's just to tell you guys and help you understand that it doesn't really matter how you do it. It depends on what the goal is for your project. We're gonna look at the other way you could go about mounting this. I'm gonna start by loosening one of the router mount bolts. We don't need to take it all the way out, but you'll see the purpose of me doing this after. This large hole over here. We could just kind of slide it over, wiggle it around, and make sure that these 2 mounting holes are perfectly aligned with that of the router mount. When you get into this position and it looks good, then you could insert your bolts and hand tighten them. I'm sure you guys could predict the step, get your Allen key, and tighten it down fully. Make sure it's nice and secure, because you do not want this wobbling around when you're using a high watt laser beam. that would be that. Those are like the two main ways to mount it. And that's essentially, yeah, how you attach it to your router mount. So you can see, again, the benefit. You have so much more height here to focus your laser. In terms of the other router mounts, your mounting holes would be on the side. Not much changes there. So I'm just gonna deattach it and flip the bracket just to give you guys a visual of that, and then that will kind of cover the bases. As you would have noted, in the initial setup, it was mounted this way. Now, if for whatever reason you want to flip the bracket, it fits your purposes better, literally just take it, flip it around, and then now you can mount this way. The mounting process is exactly the same, but now if I was to put it on the router mount, it's hanging this way. Nothing about the process changes, it's just the orientation. And then if I was to do it like this, now the long end is sticking out this way. So you follow the exact same steps, but you can just flip this bracket when initially assembling the Vortex Riser Mount. Okay, so now we're in a different room with a different machine. And this is to illustrate the point that some of our users may have the old router mount models where your mounting holes are on the side faces as opposed to the front face. So the setup doesn't really change here. You basically just want to align these two mounting holes with that of the router mount and insert your bolts. But now you just basically have one orientation option available, and it'll look like this. If you wanted to mount on the other side with the other two mounting holes, obviously just flip the bracket so that alignment makes sense. And yeah, that essentially goes through all the ways to mount your Vortex riser mount and how it's assembled. Hope you enjoyed. See you next time.